In the waning light of a forgotten age, when the stars of Elbreth burned undimmed in the heavens, the Eldar stood at a great crossroads. They had been summoned, called forth by the Valar, those radiant and sorrowful stewards of the world, to leave behind the lands of their awakening, Middle-earth, and pass into the undying glow of Aman. But what if, on that fateful eve, their hearts had turned away from the western call? What if the Elves had never left? Imagine a Middle-earth where the halls of the Eldar never emptied, where their voices still sang beneath the boughs of Arda's eldest trees. The light of the two trees, lost to Aman, would never touch their faces, but they would remain, their fate entwined with the mortal world. Would the shadow have been driven back before it took root, or would the Elves, in their wisdom and sorrow, have faded all the same? Tonight, we unravel the great thread of fate and weave anew a Middle-earth where the Eldar chose to remain. Before the first sunrise, before the world was changed by war and sorrow, the Eldar awoke beneath the stars. At Cuiviénen, where waters ran silver under the night sky, the Firstborn of Ilúvatar stirred for the first time. They were alone, unknowing of the power that shaped the world, unguarded against the shadows that had already begun to move in the darkness. Far in the west, beyond the vast expanse of the sundering seas, the Valar watched and waited. From their shining realm in Valinor, they had long prepared for the coming of the Firstborn, the eldest of Ilúvatar's children. They had shaped mountains, rivers, and forests, weaving the fabric of the world in anticipation of their awakening. But they were not the only ones who waited. Morgoth, greatest of the Ainur, had long walked the lands of Middle-earth. Though once counted among the Valar, he had turned against them, desiring dominion over all that was made. Long before the Eldar awoke, his presence had seeped into the earth, poisoning its waters, twisting its creatures, and gathering dark things to his service. The Valar, who had warred against him in ages past, knew that Middle-earth was no longer safe. Fearing for them, the Valar gathered in council upon the heights of Taniquetil, the sacred mountain where Manwë, Lord of the Valar, sat upon his throne. There, beneath the watchful gaze of Ilúvatar, they resolved to act. They would not wage war, not yet. Instead, they would call the Eldar to them, away from the lands where shadow grew. In Valinor, beneath the light of the two trees, the Firstborn would be safe. There, in the west, they would learn wisdom, free from the touch of Morgoth's hand. The Valar did not create the Elves. Therefore, they had not power to compel them to go to Valinor, but they spoke to them through the messengers of Manwë and promised them great beauty and peace and a life without end if they would come. And so the summons was given, a call to leave behind the vast wilds of Middle-earth and sail across the sundering sea to Valinor, where shadow could not reach. Orome, boldest of the Valar, was chosen to bear the message. He alone would ride into the lands where Morgoth's shadow lingered, seeking the Eldar in their hidden glades. He had walked Middle-earth before, hunting the great beasts that roamed the wild places, and his heart had long been drawn to the Firstborn, though they knew him not. He rode eastward, swift as the wind, toward Cuiviénen, where the Eldar stood at the edge of their first great choice. Orome had come to them, not as a master, but as a messenger, his voice ringing with the power of the West, his presence a force both great and unfamiliar. He spoke of Valinor, of the two trees whose light shone with a radiance beyond any in Middle-earth. He told them of the Valar, who had shaped the world and waited now across the sea, offering them a place of beauty and safety. Yet, many among the Eldar hesitated. They had known no other land but this, for Middle-earth was their first home, and the stars had been their first light. They had danced upon the shores of darkened lakes, sung beneath ancient boughs, and walked freely beneath an open sky. They had not seen the trees, nor did they understand why the light of a man was greater than the light of the stars. And so the choice was given, to sail beyond the sea, or to remain beneath the sky they had first beheld. Those who followed the call became the Eldar, the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri, but others turned away, unwilling to leave the land they had known. These were the Avari, the unwilling, who chose to remain in Middle-earth beneath the watchful stars. Had they all remained, what might have been? Had the Eldar remained, the great halls of the Firstborn would never have emptied, nor would their voices have faded from the wind. Their dominion would have stretched across Middle-earth, from the hidden glades of the north to the shores of the sundering sea. The realms of men, young and fleeting, would have grown in the shadow of beings untouched by time, watchers who did not wither, rulers who did not fall. Would this have been an age of wisdom and beauty, or a world caught forever between the unchanging and the restless? For the Eldar, though gifted with wisdom, were bound to the past, rooted in an eternity that men could not share. They might have guided Middle-earth to greater heights, yet they might also have held it still, unmoving, frozen beneath an ageless sky. In those days, elves and men were of like stature and strength of body, but the elves had greater wisdom and skill and beauty, and those who had dwelt in Valinor and looked upon the powers as much surpassed the dark elves in these things, as they in turn surpassed the people of mortal race. But how would the kindreds of the Eldar have shaped such a world? The Noldor, greatest of craftsmen, would have left their mark upon every land they touched. Their cities would not have been hidden refuges, but mighty fortresses, wonders to rival the halls of Valinor itself. Gondolin would not have been lost, but a city of legend, standing still upon its hidden heights, unconquered and eternal. Rivendell would not have been a sanctuary, but a capital of wisdom, where lore and magic were gathered and shared, not hoarded in secrecy. The rings of power might not have been hidden, but wielded openly, shaping the world in the image of their makers. Would such a world have flourished? Or would the Noldor, ever restless, have turned their will to dominion, seeking to carve Middle-earth into a kingdom of their own? For even in Aman, they were not content to be ruled. Where the Noldor might have shaped the land, the Teleri would have ruled the seas. The Teleri, ever drawn to the sea, would not have been kings of the land, but lords of the waters. Their ships, which once bore them to Aman, would have remained upon the shores of Middle-earth, turning its rivers and coasts into the highways of an empire without borders. Harbours would have risen where only wild shores have stood. Trade would have flourished, uniting the free peoples not by conquest, but by commerce. New lands, hidden beyond the known seas, might have been discovered, not by men seeking dominion, but by elves seeking wonder. Yet, for all their beauty, the Teleri did not love war. they might have remained apart, sailing between their own havens, untouched by the struggles of the world. Would they have been guides or ghosts, seen only in the distance, forever untouchable? The Vanyar, the fairest and the first, might have shaped Middle-earth, not with stone, nor with ships, but with wisdom. Beloved of Manwë, closest to the Valar, they were the least concerned with the affairs of the world. Yet, had they remained, their presence might have been a beacon of peace, a bridge between the fading immortals and the rising race of men. Temples and sanctuaries would have been built, places of learning and counsel, where the wisdom of the Firstborn was shared. The free peoples of Middle-earth, elves, men and dwarves alike, might have turned to them in times of need, seeking guidance rather than war. The Edain of old learned swiftly of the Eldar all such art and knowledge as they could receive, and their sons increased in wisdom and skill until they far surpassed all others of mankind who dwelt still east of the mountains and had not seen the Eldar and the faces that had beheld the light. Perhaps even the shadow of Morgoth's lingering will would have been pushed back, not by swords, but by faith and understanding. Would they have succeeded in bringing peace? Or would time itself have turned against them, as the hearts of men grew restless and their patience for immortal counsel waned? For even in the world that was, where the Eldar diminished, war still arose between elves and men. Numenor's fall, the distrust of the Easterlings, the slow fading of alliances. These were not the echoes of an empty world, but of one where the Firstborn remained too long. Had the Eldar stayed, these tensions would have not vanished. And since the departure of the Eldar was not a single moment in history, but a slow fading, an exodus that stretched across the ages, the Eldar presence would have shaped every turning of the world. The First Age's great wars against Morgoth might have been fought with greater unity, but division would still have followed in victory. The alliances of elves and men in the Second Age, so fragile even in canon, might have fractured further, as the Númenóreans sought to carve their own place beside their immortal allies, or against them, and the Third Age, which saw the slow withdrawal of the Eldar, might have instead been marked by a world where their power remained, a world where men, no longer inheritors of a fading realm, might have grown restless under the unchanging gaze of the Firstborn. Friendship and wisdom would have flourished, but so too would rivalry and war. And in the Fourth Age, the Age of Men, would not have to come alone. With Aragorn upon the throne, the rift between elves and men would be healed and grow stronger. The realms of the Eldar would stand beside Gondor and Arnor, shaping a golden age where wisdom and mortality walked hand in hand. Elven knowledge would have strengthened the cities of men, ensuring that the greatness of Númenor's heirs never dwindled. The friendship of men and elves, reforged under Aragorn's rule, might have led to an age where both races flourished, not one where one simply faded into legend. Perhaps even magic itself, which waned as the Eldar departed, would have endured, woven into the very fabric of the Fourth Age. But even as this future shone bright, the question would remain, could it last? For men are ever restless, their hearts seeking new dominion, new power, and the Eldar, though wise, are unchanging, bound to the past as much as to the present. Would this age have become the greatest in Middle-earth's history? Or would it have been the beginning of the final war between the Firstborn and the race destined to inherit the world? Had the Eldar remained, the world would have been richer, greater, and filled with wisdom beyond reckoning. But in the end, was their fading not a loss, but a necessity? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the myths and legends of Arda. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. And if you wish to delve deeper into the world of Tolkien, explore our past videos for more untold tales and forgotten histories. Until next time, may the stars shine upon your faces.